that's okay. Secondly, microphones. I think most people have done this already. Most know how to do a Zoom call these days after the copious amounts of quizzes and everything else that we've had to endure this year. So if everyone make sure their microphone is off. However, please don't let that stop you joining in the conversation this afternoon. If you would like to raise a point or anything like that, feel free to unmute yourself. You're welcome to jump in. We've also got the chat function there as well. We'll keep an eye on that. And sometimes that's a little bit easier because sometimes I miss people's hands in the air or whatever else. So if you wanted to jump in the chat and just say, could I please have a little bit on this? And I will, of course, be opening it up to everyone to get involved as well. So the more the merrier, as always, here at the Met. Obviously, I'm going to lead tonight's event, and as I say, I can only apologise for that. I'm going to be supported by our bid manager, Jason Maxwell, and also Max Freer, founder and managing director of One of a Kind. And of course, most importantly, as I was just saying, you guys, because we want you guys to be involved as much as possible in the conversation. Now, it is so great to see the bid's commitment to equality and inclusion for women in business, as we are joined this evening by an all-female panel made up of some of Tees Valley's leading lights in business. I feel bad. I feel like we should be embracing girl power here. I should have put on my best Spice Girl outfit, I think, because we have really got some girl power on our panel. We've got Jo Davies, who's the Managing Director of HR Alchemy. We've got Jessica Williams, the founder and Managing Director of Just Williams. We've got our Metro mayoral candidate, Jessie Jo Jacobs, and also from Stockton Globe, we've got the General Manager there, Joe Agar. So it's lovely to see our panel. If they can all give us a wave, it's fantastic to have you here with us this afternoon. We're really pleased that you could all make it along. Quick roll call as well as to everyone else. If you're looking around the screen, you're thinking, oh, who's that? Oh, I think I recognise that person. I'll quickly go through it. So we've met Joe Agar from the Globe. We've got Malcolm Barnard with us this afternoon, Catherine Barnes from Gideon Group. We've got Megan Davidson from Butterwick, Joe Davis from HR Alchemy, I mentioned before. We got Vicky Henderson-Tyne from Middlesbrough and Stockton Mind, Claire Hepburn from Reach PLC, Lorna Hobson from Hampton by Hilton Hotel, our lovely home normally whenever we do Stockton Met, when we're not just on a screen. We've got Jessie Jo Jacobs, as I mentioned just before, Sarah King from Jocelyn Rhodes, Emily Knott from HR Alchemy, Jill Marshall from Jill's Flower Box, Laura McCaffrey from Bauer Media, Sophie Pileski from Archer's Law. We've got Michael Poole from, of course, Michael Poole Estate Agents. Everyone knows Michael. Ian Sadler from Insight 6. We've got Lynn Stainsby, Emma Story from Just Williams, and Jessica Williams from Just Williams as well. Now, I know some people might have doubled up, some people might have dropped out and everything, but they are the people who have registered to be with us this evening. So it's lovely to see you all. Now, it's absolutely great to have your support this afternoon. We can't do this event if we don't have someone to chat to. So thank you very much once more for attending this month. Now, yesterday, Teesside woke up to new COVID restrictions. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you about that. It's been all over the news. I think we all know about it. With new measures coming into force with Darlington, Hartlepool, Middlesbrough, Redcar and Cleveland and Stockton on Tees, all on COVID alert level of high. That's the tier 2 category. As I'm sure, as I say, you don't need me to teach you how to suck eggs. Everyone's been reading about it. Everyone's heard the debate and everyone's heard Boris going on and on about it. So we're fortunate really, because Stockton BID are Tees Valley's only bid that during the most turbulent of times with COVID-19, as an organisation, Jace and the organisation have demonstrated its value and integrity to your levy membership, proving to be a vital link advocating for our levy members between local council and national government. They've really been intrinsic in the whole process. The highlights have included so many things. I'm going to cross over to Jason in a second and he'll fill you in with more, but such things as supporting 100 businesses get back on their feet. And as I say, loads of other things. So without further ado, I'm going to head over to our bid manager, Jason Maxwell. Coming to you, Jace. How has the news been received by the levy members, the new tier level and stuff like that?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us is the first thing to say. Very mixed, Matt, if truth be told. It's really difficult because up until this point, I think we had lost one business from town and that's about it. So we'd done really, really well. This last week, when there was the threat or the real chance of going into tier 2 lockdown, I had about 5 or 6 businesses that came to me and said, I'm worried, I don't know what to do. I think this will be the bit, the straw that broke the camel's back really and pushes them over the edge. So I think if something isn't done to help financially, I think we could well lose over the next month or so another 5 or 6 businesses from our town centre. And they will be independents. Now, we know the problems with the nationals. I think Peacocks have got a closing down sale on, and there's lots of nationals that have gone. But from this point of view, I'm talking about independent businesses that absolutely rely to put money on the table and those types of things. They're the entrepreneurs really that have kept our town centre going over the last 4 or 5 years at least, while the high streets have been evolving. Let's put it that way.
And as you say there, you know, it came through what we thought was the worst of it during the initial lockdown. I think we all, at the back of our mind, were well aware that there was going to be more to this. And, you know, but it's just a lot of businesses have just started to get back on their feet. You've managed to help a lot of the businesses reopen it and get ready. I mean, this second one, it feels a little bit like almost a knockout punch, doesn't it?
It does. We helped about 100 businesses. I think it was like 98. So with sneeze guards and tape and sanitizer and all that type of thing, and saved them a lot of money. And as well as that, it was the advice and those types of things to help them get open. So actually, as a bid, we're really, really proud of some of those things that we've done. But this does feel a bit like a knockout blow. We all knew it was going to come at some point. This side of Christmas is pretty heartbreaking because for a lot of businesses, retail, hospitality, this is the time now where they would have been putting money away to get them through those quieter times of January and February, where the money in the bank is their reserve, really, if that makes sense, to keep them going. I don't know what the answers are, but it does feel very, very harsh at this particular point of view, with not a lot of financial assistance from government. I know some places have been asking to be put into tier 3 so that they can get financial assistance. I'm not sure that's the right approach either, but whatever it is, as a community, as businesses, as people that use town centres across the boroughs, we have to do the right thing now, I think, and stick to that hands, face and space rule and those the numbers of 6, because if we don't, we're going to lose businesses right across not just our town, but across all of the borough and the other towns in the Tees Valley region. So for us in the northeast, I think this could be hypercritical, really.
Absolutely. I mean, as you say, you know, it's following the guidelines that have been set and trying to adapt to yet another change. I know you have sort of initiated a marketing campaign, which is about Keep Going Stockton.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how that's looking to sort of maybe, I don't know, inspire people to keep going at this awful time?
Yeah, we're trying lots of things, and it's difficult because, like lots of other places, we're trying to plan for Christmas and events are closing down. And I can see Claire Frawley somewhere about that. We've been looking to see what we can do to try and put on sort of smaller events that will just for Christmas, and which is why we're doing the Halloween event as well. Is we're trying to bring just a little bit of morale and a little bit of hope to people, really. So we want to keep going Stockton, and that can be, I guess, read in a couple of ways. It's keep going, or it can be, come on, let's keep going together, because we have to work as a community, and we do need to keep going, but we need to keep going together. And that's not just as people, as communities, it's just a business community, it's networks like this that we can spread a little bit of hope, that we can keep all of those businesses going. And I think those people that are around in the high streets, I know I've been told to work at home, but for those that are in the high street, please keep supporting them. Please go and buy your lunch from there if you can. Please just do the little bits that can make a massive difference to our high street. And I know I keep talking about our high street because that's where we're based, that's what we do. But it isn't just about ours anymore. It's about every high street in every town across the country. Every one of them needs every last little bit of support. And as you can tell, I'm massively passionate about ours, but also passionate about every job right across every town in the borough.
Absolutely. I mean, Jace, to be honest, it's not, I mean, you're obviously, you know, talking about the togetherness and all coming together to get through this. I think some of the government could do with a little bit of your advice as well, Jace, because obviously there doesn't really seem to be any joint up thinking between the four nations at the minute. You know, it's all over the place, as we've seen the last couple of days. And today's headlines for a short, sharp circuit break proposed by Labour as a short-term proposed intervention, as we've all seen today, is starting to gain some positive traction amongst many members of the community, both political and in the business world as well. I wanted to open this up to everyone, and just if you'd obviously heard about the circuit breaker plan potentially today and it being put in place, I wondered if anyone had any thoughts on that they'd like to throw into the mix at all. Anyone would like to be bold and raise their hand? I'm sure Jace will start us, and then if someone wants to hand up.
And not on those types of things. I know it's been mooted by Labour, but I think the government were given the idea a few weeks ago that they've not done. I'm not against the idea. I'd rather they give a quick, sharp shock and get it under control to somewhere to allow people to spend at Christmas time, and then to manage it, if you like, if that's the right term, until January, February time, when it's quiet. People aren't out spending money at that time. So let's try and get it under some sort of control now until that particular time. And I can't believe that people haven't come together with this. I can't believe in Parliament or in government that we haven't got lots of people around the table. Surely at this time, you want the best brains around that table, and you can't do it. It has to be cross-party. It has to be the same in the towns across not just our borough, across every town. Local authorities, bids, businesses have to come together to plot their own way through this. And I think that's the only way we'll get through. And I think without that, it's quite frightening, but I'm certainly not against that. I know business will be closed for 3 weeks or 2 weeks, but let's try and get it under control so people can spend through that Christmas period and give businesses a realistic chance.
Would anyone else like to come in on that? Anyone who is, potentially whose business would face closing for 2 weeks? Do you see that as a good option, or do you think those 2 weeks are that's going to be it for it? You can't live beyond those 2 weeks. If anyone wants to raise a hand or jump in, yeah, Jessica.
I'm happy to start. We're back working from home now. We were back at Fusion Hive for about 2 and a bit weeks, and we've worked as a team from home for 6 months, and it's amazing actually being back in the office. The momentum that we've built in such a small amount of time, and that working together, you can't plan from a strategic perspective over Zoom. Well, you can, but with great difficulty and with great challenges. And so, on the announcement, we decided to protect our staff, because Fusion Hive, which is where we're based, there is quite a lot of foot flow in there, and it was a really hard decision to make for me, not one that I took lightly at all. But for us, and it's something that we discussed in the office, and I'm sure Emma will agree with me in regards to this, is that we would absolutely agree with that. A 2-3 week, because in essence it's a time frame that we can manage, and we can plan for the period after that. Whereas at the moment, I think that never-ending time frame is so difficult for any business, regardless of sector, to manage and to cope with moving forward.
Absolutely, it's all about having a defined period of time. That, as you say, I think that is the frustration for a lot of businesses at the minute, because you get on, everyone's getting on their feet and getting back to normal, and then it's not knowing how long that's going to last and how long something else. So you're saying that for 2 weeks it would be good to actually just have that, and then it's we know what's going. Anyone else want to jump in on this? Jace, yeah.
And it's not just about the businesses in the town centre, it's all of the supply chains that lead into this. So it's not just, we talk about hospitality and the pub trades and things like that, but it's the brewers that are making the beer for them. It's the health, it's the hair and beauty businesses that actually, I don't need my hair doing, but I can see Jessie Jo at the bottom there and Jessica that have got these flowing locks that I wish I could have, that would need to go to a hair salon to get them done. And those guys are suffering as well, or the nails being done, or review menswear with Norman, that sometimes joins us, that actually people aren't going and spending for the clothes that to go out in, and it's those types of things that are that are suffering. It's not just the bars and hospitality trades.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to come to Joe in a second. We're going to get into a full chat with you, Joe. So I'm actually going to head to Michael. I know you raised your hand there and wanted to come in.
Yeah, I'm one of the few businesses that seem to have had a positive effect from COVID, because our business is significantly up on what it was this time last year. Why, I don't know, but it's just a pure fluke. The problem with any form of lockdown, as you can see at the moment, people are just not following any guidance whatsoever. And you just, I mean, I've just got on Borough Road now, you can see people that are walking around next to each other, not bothered about anything, going to shops without masks and everything else. No matter what the government do, and I think, yeah, 2-week lockdown might be a break, it'll just come back to where we are now after a 2-week period. Unfortunately, there's not the ability to police what's going on. And you know, that's the big worry. And unfortunately, I think until they, you know, dare I say it, until the death rate increases substantially, people won't cotton on to what's actually going on with their noses. So I think no matter what interception there is there by government, unless people are going to take this seriously, everybody, then whatever we do is a sticking plaster. We're just going to go back to where we were at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, as you say, Michael, I think some people are getting a little frustrated with following guidelines. So I don't think people like Dominic Cummings particularly helped the cause with his trips out to see if his site was working and things like that. But certainly, you're right. It's when potentially, as you say, people have to follow these things, even if you know, the government can say what they want. If no one's following it, then it doesn't matter anyway. Okay, well, we'll move on slightly. I'm going to bring in Jo Davies, who is, I'm glad you could join us this afternoon, Managing Director of HR Alchemy. She informs me there is a puppy in the room as well, so we may get some puppy interaction, and I'm sure that's the same for quite a lot of us. We've been finding there's been a lot of dogs involved in Zoom meetings, just no one can see them at the moment. But Jo, it's absolutely wonderful you can join us. Thank you so much. Now you're at the cold front, sort of the cold front of HR employment in the Tees Valley right now. And I expect sort of speaking to business operators daily, perhaps, about the future employment risks and opportunities as COVID continues into the winter and spring and however long. It's obviously very much on a lot of people's mind at the minute. Can you give us a sort of global roundup of the current status and feeling or mood? And if you can provide perhaps a focus for Stockton as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the last few months have been fairly torrid for quite a lot of businesses, not all businesses that we look after, but I think kind of pre-furlough, people were starting to panic because things were closing. You know, the instructions from government were stay at home, and a lot of people had sent their employees home and were wondering how on earth to pay them. I think once furlough came along, there was a huge collective sigh of relief for many businesses, because it meant that they could kind of keep their employees and sustain their employees for hopefully when things improved. Now, obviously, furlough's coming to an end and has been slowly dropping off the last few months. And from 1st of November, there's the new scheme, the job support scheme. But when you look into the details of the job support scheme, you know, it's in no way a furlough scheme. It's, you know, there is a financial test to begin with that you've got to prove before you can access the funds. And your employees need to be back at work. So a lot of clients, whilst during furlough we were supplying advice and support and guidance and, you know, their administration in terms of helping them get through those difficult times. I think now furlough's coming to an end, the kind of recognition that a lot of businesses are starting to look at, well, do I really need that person? Do I really need that person? And a lot of our work over the last few weeks and probably the last couple of months has been a lot to do with redundancy consultation, advice and guidance, and not in all aspects. I have to be honest in that, you know, we have quite a big digital and tech client base, and they've just been thriving during this period. We look after quite a number of gaming companies, and a lot of people have been sitting at home playing games. So from that perspective, they've never been as busy. And, you know, Michael said there that, you know, obviously home and selling and you know, rental, the property market, you know, going through a bit of a boom as well. But, you know, a lot of clients, sadly, particularly in hospitality, beauty salons, these sorts of clients that we've had have had to look quite honestly at their businesses and say, okay, if we're going to survive, you know, what's the bare minimum we can manage with, and how many people can we get down to until we get through this period, and who can we do without? And that's been tough. And I think for those that have managed to survive, I think, and those that are working from home, those that are that are kind of managing to kind of see their way through this period. It's been a lot about mental health. It's been a lot about making sure that they're looking after their employees properly, and you know, are giving them more support, maybe access to online health provision, these sorts of things. So in terms of opportunities, that really it's been keeping their employees in a fit and healthy shape, so that, you know, coming out the other side, that, you know, that people are, you know, are managing working from home safely and are in a, you know, a pretty good mental shape as well. So in terms of for Stockton, I think, you know, a lot of those things are probably very similar. We do have quite a few clients in the Stockton area who, you know, some of whom are doing well, some of whom are, you know, are struggling. And sorry, Jason, you've got a question. Jason?
Joe, yeah, sorry, Joe. It's just for you. You were talking about redundancies and those types of things, but a lot of people have, as you say, have done quite well during their processes. Is there anything when people are now hiring? And so I guess looking on the positive note of it, when people are hiring, are there anything in there, in their contracts or anything about COVID, or are people doing anything short term along those sorts of lines, or should there be, rather than just...
What do you mean in terms of COVID, in terms of contracts?
Well, whether the contract might be shorter or longer, or are people recruiting with a shorter term in case they go back into lockdowns or anything? Or
no, the clients that are thriving at the minute are generally thriving because the business has accelerated during this time. I mentioned gaming. We look after quite a number of gaming companies in the area, and they've got orders seeing them through for the next 12, 24 months. You know, a lot of the digital clients we've got equally are doing really well. It tends to be the more traditional kind of the retailers, the businesses, the some of the engineering type industries where they are looking to kind of downsize and looking at redundancies, unfortunately, at this stage.
And I guess that's difficult because they're our traditional high street businesses, aren't they?
Well, they're the life of your high street, aren't they? You know, they're your traditional. That's what, you know. That's what your high street's all about. You know, your retailers. So yes, I mean, unfortunately, that is an area that we have seen. You know, people shoring up really to make sure that they either A, survive or B, take a brave decision to close.
And I guess the next thing for us then, as a high street, sorry, Max, and you were probably going to jump back in there, was how do we bring those more digital businesses to the high street so we keep evolving and make them more digital, or to bring those onto the high street? And that's going to be our next challenge, I guess, rather than sort of traditional bricks.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, a lot of what your proposals are for Stockton in terms of looking at kind of having you know, a smaller constricted high street, but, you know, with lots of independence in there, you know, there's lots of opportunities to do something very different. And that's probably going to attract, you know, the different kind of businesses that want to perhaps make an offering that's, you know, a little bit more engaging for customers rather than just a standard kind of shop, more of a, you know, I was reading about Amazon doing something that they were having kind of social explorations, organic stores that were kind of, you would walk in, it was like a mini market, and, you know, doing things that were a little bit different on the high street rather than, you know, just a traditional offering.
Cool.
Absolutely. Jason, never butting in. Anyone can butt in at any time, as you're well aware. I was sort of going to ask you, Joe, I mean, you've kind of answered it a little bit there, but it's, you know, from your perspective, how can towns like Stockton sort of prepare themselves to support kind of job progression, but also a career creation as well? As Jason mentioned there, you know, is there any way of getting these digital businesses onto the high street? But is there any way that, you know, we can actually look to build in something that has come from all of this? Because, you know, I guess we have had to move more into digital. A lot of people playing computer games, a lot of people on Zoom, a lot of people having to work remotely, a lot of people having to be more engaged in the digital world than they perhaps were. Is there a potential there for career creation?
Yeah, so I mean, I was on a call last week with a guy called Paul Crony, if anybody knows him, who's the kind of Vice Chancellor and Chief Exec of Teesside Uni, and you know, they're doing some fairly amazing stuff as part of their development and plans for the future, bioscience and medical and digital, and I just wondered whether or not there's a way of tying up some of that excitement and investment that's going on at that end in terms of career and progression and development, and tying that into perhaps some of the challenges on the high street, and you know, whether or not there's something that Stockton can be doing to kind of look at the kind of talent that's going to be coming through that pipeline, and looking at opportunities that can benefit, you know, the town, and obviously the talent that's going to be emerging over the coming years. There's certainly, they're investing heavily in kind of some core areas, and it would be good to see that joined up thinking within towns as well, in terms of encouraging careers and such like for Stockton, because clearly there's going to be there's been quite a conscious decision there in terms of what they're investing in. So it would be good if that was joined up to jobs at the end of that as well.
Absolutely, it's a conversation that sounds like it should definitely happen, and the way they could potentially sort of work in a cohesive way together going forward. Absolutely, Joe. Thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating stuff. I'm sure we'll be back with you at some point. I want to bring in Jessica Williams, who is the founder and managing director of Just Williams. Now, Jess, no meetings at work and all that. You know, it's a quieter time. You are a Stockton business. Obviously, you mentioned before, you are actually back in your offices. Are you still back in now, or how are you operating business presently, you know, given the pace of change?
Hi everybody, thanks Matt. Yeah, it's certainly been a really challenging time without stating the obvious. 6 months we were working from home. We headed back to the office, which is at Fusion Hive, fabulous office premises, about 3 weeks ago, and did a bit of a hybrid approach in regards to, you know, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays in the office, and Tuesdays and Thursdays from home. And as I think I mentioned earlier as well, we've tried as a business to remain remarkably visible throughout this on various different platforms, and I'm really pleased Emma Story's here with me today, because she's been fundamental in all of that. You know, we've tried to do everything that we can in terms of reaching out for various communities and setting up various groups to keep that connectivity, because I think it's essential. And back onto what Joe said as well, you know, we've got so many amazing things happening. We just need that central post that signposts it all. But yeah, we headed back to the offices a few weeks ago. We recruited again, and we had a new starter, which was why, you know, we were really, really keen to kind of get that momentum going and head back into the offices. Unfortunately, on the back of the announcement, I had to make a pretty tough call in regards to working from home again, which is something that we're revising on a weekly basis. Fusion Hive is a fabulous environment, but there's lots of foot flow, as I mentioned, people coming in and out of the offices, and if we're all in there, it poses quite a significant risk to the business if something were to happen. So it's been a pretty tough time. I mean, obviously, I'd love to have actually at the start of this started just to keep a tally of how many Zoom meetings I've had. I never thought it would be going on this long, because I think I'd have run out of ink, to be honest with you. We obviously have had to, as a business, as most organisations have, and for our clients, diversify, you know, quite significantly and look at new ways of contacting from a sales perspective. And I think we've all probably found that quite challenging in terms of really changing our sales strategy and how we're engaging with people. Obviously, a lot of the virtual networking and events and exhibitions have started to come online, which, you know, I'm sure, again, I'm not speaking out of turn here, you've all had some great experiences and some really awful experiences. But I think we're all kind of getting used to the fact that this is, you know, how it's going to be for a while, and therefore it's just finding different ways of engaging with people.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it sounds like, I'm sure, like many of the people who are in the room tonight, it's all about adapting to the different situations and trying to incorporate it all. And as you say, it's an ever-changing situation, because, you know, you get back into work and then all of a sudden you're back out of work, and it's like, I guess it's really hard. And also, I don't know about anyone else, but Zoom calls at the start of all this, I hated seeing my face on a Zoom call. Got quite used to it now. I mean, I normally put the laptop up on a box so you can't see the double chin, but that's the one thing I've learned how to do. Jess, well, I mean, good luck with it all going forward. And I think you've been Just Williams has been like sort of a shining beacon on quite often how you've adapted and stuff. And it's great to hear that you're going on and also taking on new starters as well, which is that's fantastic to hear. Now, obviously, it's far from certain if many businesses will unfortunately last the pace between now and Christmas. As we mentioned before, it's been a sort of tumultuous time going for tumultuous. I don't even know that's a word. Turbulent time. That's probably the one I'm looking for. Going, from the last all year basically. However, particularly, these next few months are huge. The new tier system, the potential circuit breaker, which we all suspect might come in, and if it does, maybe the half term where all the kids will be off and have nowhere to go again. So obviously some businesses may fall by the wayside, which is, it's just horrible to have to say this. I'm going to bring in our Metro Mayor candidate, Jessie Jo Jacobs, to comment on this. Jessie, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's lovely to see you. Future-proofing the high street it's not without its challenges. So, I mean, quite often on the Met, we do discuss about how to future-proof, and that was before a pandemic hit us. It was all about how to rejuvenate the high street and how to make sure it exists in the future. How do we start to respond to this crisis and reshape the future of the high street again?
And it's, to be honest, it's really sad just sort of listening in on the conversation to hear of those businesses that are thinking of closing it. And that was always my big concern. From launching my campaign, I put high streets very much at the centre, at the centre of my plans, because people feel a connection to the high street. If a high street is in decline, if there is nothing for people to do, then it automatically impacts people's well-being and how they feel the place that they live. Even though their neighbourhoods could be great, there's something about town centre in decline, feel like we're in decline. So it's very important that those centres we do life are thriving and people feel happy about them, and they're also the places where we do culture and we do life. So that's why it's always important to me. And straight away when the kind of COVID crisis happened, I went into, I guess, crisis mode and very much taking the political hat off. It wasn't a time for playing policies and playing politics. It's a time for policies. And I actually wrote a kind of 20-point plan and sent it to the Combined Authority, to Rishi Sunak and anyone else that would listen, to see this tsunami on its way. And it felt like everyone was just head in the sands. This is going to happen and it's going to be big and it's going to be painful. So things that I put in there was about looking at digital high streets, digital grants, recognising that firstly for retailers, traditional retailers have to be able to compete with the Amazons of this world, and convenience is always going to be competitive to our traditional high streets. So I have conversations with Totally Locally and what they're doing in Yorkshire, kind of taking the street digital, and they've just launched now where there's 1,000 products that you can buy online from all of the different retailers in Calderdale, I think, where they piloted it. They've now got the model that can be replicated. So I really want to ensure we can learn from what's already gone before us. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So digital high streets, number one. Number two, if I can quickly jump in, Jessie Jo.
No, I'm going to let you get onto number two very quickly. I'm just interested in the digital high street, and perhaps I'm just an idiot. How does that work? So say I'm a high street business. I'm on the high street. How do I convert into a digital high street? And obviously that's not going to work for people like hair salons or beauty salons or anything else. I guess for the businesses that can convert, which there will be out there, what's that process? What are we looking at?
So the way that I think it works is a little bit like Etsy. So people upload their products and then they can be shipped out. So I don't know the detail, because as I said, it's only literally just launched, I think this week or last week. And yeah, but one of the things that I know was important was that all of the products that could be shipped to homes are all kind of centrally registered. It's a little bit like I was involved with Food and Drink Northeast, and we launched an online farmers market in north of the region, and that's how that works. We basically had all of the suppliers register all of their products on one site, and then you can go on there and you can basically buy. We pack the boxes ourselves, so I presume it's possibly the same. You have one central organisation that does the packing, and then that's shipped out. And right. Actually, that's been a real lifeline in north of the region.
I'm going to bring, I'm going to let you get to point 2, Jessie Jo, very soon. I'm so sorry. I just know, I believe that UK and the BID have been looking at this for our region. I think we're all been looking to Yorkshire, and certainly I was really interested to know how it's been working. And am I right, Jason and Max, that you've been looking at how to implement it in this sort of area as well?
Yeah, we've been looking at it for a while now. We originally started looking at it, believe it or not, with a bookstore. Who are very good in our town centre, called Drake's Books, and we had one of our social levy meetings probably, well, it was pre-COVID, so I'm guessing this time last year, and we sort of at that time sort of said what we'd like to do is create an Amazon style website for the town centre, lockers where you could buy online but still have a conscience and but still shop online, so it would absolutely go straight to the retailers. Now, we're going to try and get something off the ground over Christmas that I probably shouldn't talk about. Max will probably throw a wobbly, but I will. That we're trying to create a place where we can promote one website where all of the retailers that have a web-facing business, if you like, the people can shop through that, so that will direct them to it. It's not a business directory. It's an online marketplace for all of the businesses. And as a BID, what we were going to try and do is we were going to pay all the delivery costs, and we were going to get a man with a van so that it didn't impact on the businesses or on the consumer. Because I think that's really important as well, that actually if we're doing our best for the businesses, then whatever little bit we can put back, that's fine. And however we make that delivery service work, I think that's also really important that we do that. And whether that's because it's convenient to shop online or whether we're in lockdown, I don't know at this point, but then we'll move to the bigger thing later next year, hopefully.
Absolutely. Thanks. No, great. It's great to have an update. It's good to hear how the plans have been implemented. Right, Jessie, I'll let you carry on now and stop interrupting you. I can only apologize.
Absolutely jump in. And it's great that we've got a sort of thinking BID that is leading the way, and actually we probably need that as a Tees Valley to really kind of help those high streets work together and share best practice. The other thing that I think is going to be important, and I was going to hear the mention of kind of digital and bringing organisations into the high street. There are powers within a combined authority and a mayoral authority to basically set up like special economic zones. I'm going to get technical here, but it means that is exactly what they're doing with Tees Works, which is an industrial. You can on high streets, and they're doing that in Greater Manchester, so it means you can have more flexibility in basically things like tax. It's about taxes, isn't it? And if you can bring people into these special economic zones and give them tax incentives for business rates, then that's going to encourage people onto the high. We all know business rates is not fit for purpose. It just doesn't work particularly if we're going to have a mixed economy. It's too high. We need that business rates holiday to continue for a long time, because it's going to take so long to kind of kickstart things. So short-term business rates holiday continued well into next year, and then longer term get these special economics for high streets, so we can really have some more powers and controls over setting the fees, and then some just for me, like trying to attract entrepreneurs onto the high street, social businesses much more. And again, this is post-COVID, but bringing back the leisure opportunities. There's a boxing gym in Birmingham which is set up in an old shop, and I think we could really see much more of that. But again, they've got to have rates and rent that is attracting them to come onto the high street. And so in the same way we've got charity shops, you can have charity projects and not-for-profit businesses that are running a whole host of leisure for young people, children, families, then we can see a real kind of exciting and vibrant future. So I'm not going to give up on the high street, because as I said, I think it's important and it needs to continue together.
Absolutely. Well, it's good to hear that you're not giving up on it, Jessie. And if you are successful in your campaign, we expect preferential treatment because you've been in the Met. So we all look forward to that.
And I'm a Stockton with 3 generations of businesses were on Stockton High Street in my family. So
yes, that's what we're all about. Well, Jessie, thank you very much. I'm gonna swim back to Jessica Williams. Jess, it would be great to get your sort of take on this as a business operator, how you would like to see, I don't know, the shape and the future of Stockton High Street. I mean, could we see, for instance, a Just Williams sales academy on the high street, or a central go-to location for one-stop training and support to retrain, and perhaps people who have lost their jobs, give new people, young people new skills, and then even older workers, if they're coming out of a job and they don't know where to go, is there something that could do, or what would you like to see, happening on that high street?
Well, firstly, Matt, I'd like you to head up my new campaign for that, if that's all right, because you're so eloquent in regards to the way you put that. Emma, we've got to hire him. Great question. I mean, we've been in Fusion Hive now, which is, I presume everybody knows where that is. It's the other side of Hilton. So we're kind of neighbours with those fabulous guys there. Lovely to see you, Lorna. And it's we've been there quite a while now. We looked to move probably about a year or so ago. We needed some more space. We just fancied a bit of a change, and we looked at a huge amount of spaces, none of which were on any high street across the Tees Valley, because there wasn't the appropriate space to do that. Now, I know people like Michael Poole have recently just done an amazing job. By the way, if you haven't seen their Stockton office, it is, Michael, I want to come and work there myself. It's amazing. But actually, I think the without being really obvious, the things that always will detract enterprises like mine away from the high street is the obvious things like parking, accessibility, security, and actually there is something wonderful about being in a building as we are, where apart from obviously when things like COVID happen, where there's a community, where you are part of a community within a building. We really like using the shared spaces there, and it gives that kind of collaboration piece as well, which is fantastic. Obviously, again, without stating the obvious, the last 12 months, we launched the Just Williams Sales Academy just over a year ago now. Wow, it's been a challenging year. We had a fantastic start, and a lot of our training was face-to-face. We were getting loads of traction. We were due to have the North's first ever sales conference this year. Clearly that hasn't happened. So we adapted very quickly to a webinar setting, and I think Emma will probably keep me right here, 35 webinars or something that we've done now. It's kind of gone a bit crackers, but actually there's nothing that can do better than face-to-face training. And actually, I think something like that as a flagship on Stockton High Street, hey, you never know what it holds, and I think there's a real opportunity for it there. I think to get a business, to see businesses go back to the high street, because let's be honest, I think commercial property is going to really struggle over the next 12 months. We've seen in Fusion Hive, and I'm sure this is mapped across a lot of commercial buildings like that there are businesses that are understandably seeing that they can work from home without the additional overhead. But I think one thing that you can't replace is that community, and I think if there was some appropriate office locations and facilities within the high street, I think that you could absolutely attract those businesses to it, as long as the facilities were right. Absolutely. And I know Catherine Barnes has just been on there saying we totally agree with you, Jessica. They're in Gloucester House, the guiding group, and love the community aspect as well. So I think certainly that is a key thing. Just letting you know, guys, we are looking at, we might overrun by 5 to 10 minutes. I can only apologise. We'll try and keep it in time, but just so
you're aware. If your tea's on and it's about to burn at 5 o'clock, then I was just going to let you all know that we love to overrun by a little bit. It wouldn't be the Met if it didn't. We like to really open up the conversation as much as possible. I'm going to head over to Max Freer, who's the managing director of One of a Kind, to talk about creativity and strategy now. So Max, Ook is a new breed of creative agency for mankind. You use your business as a force for good to create purposeful work for humanity and the planet, aiming to be a certified B company. Now, can you give us some of the highlights on future workings with Stockton BID? I do enjoy this. You let us into your secret lair and let us know what you've got cooking up.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And sort of part of my role at One of a Kind is to be a sort of a collective consciousness, I suppose, for Stockton BID. A little bit about what we do at Ook. A lot of the guests here will probably know that for 10 years prior to Ook, I had a company which was what you would class as a traditional marketing agency. But in kind of like 2012, I realised that the world was changing massively. And I completely agree with Jesse's points on kind of planet sustainability, you know, kind of really looking after the planet. That's huge to me, because if we don't have a planet, you know, none of us are going to be here in the future. But I also realised that there was a growing need for companies to sort of use their talents to be a force for good. And I started to research, you know, what would be the future company in the 21st century. And I came across the concept of the B corporations. So B corporations are companies like WeTransfer, Innocent Smoothies, and they're kind of like the third sector. So they are companies that are very sort of 21st century looking. And they're basically set up to be a force for good. So the commercial entities, but they put purpose ahead of profit. And that's what Ook is. We fundamentally look at purpose before profit. We look at how are we going to work with a client and be a force for good. And what underpins what we do is about giving things back to humanity and the planet. So we're not in it for a quick buck. We're in it to make the difference. So the comments that Jesse was saying in particular resonate with me as a business. So what we have at Ook is we have a collective consciousness. So we're a kind of agile business. And what I mean by that is we are completely agile. We have no employees and we just collaborate with some brilliant minds. So we're linked to the Centre for Digital Innovation. We work with Teesside University and we work with scientists, experts in sensory marketing. And what we do is we bring all of this knowledge to the client challenge. So when we look at sort of Stockton High Street per se, 2 years ago when I started working with Stockton, we were talking back then about the need for kind of a reconceptual thought process on future high streets. The things that you're looking at right now is you've got the future generation coming through. So these are all sort of children that are 10 years and younger. They don't have a concept of a high street, and they're going to be the future users of the high street. So when we're looking at marketing now, you really need to be thinking about children that are 10 years and above, not 5 years time, 10 years and above. These are the future changers, and they've got a concept of the world that they are the creators. So any children that are sort of 10 now, in six years time, they're going to have the vote. They've got a real view of the world, and that's really because of YouTube. And I bring YouTube in because YouTube is the world's largest search engine. So a couple of things that we chatted on here very quickly. The thing that we need to all be right now is digitally enabled. We're in an era of the digital era. It's not going away. It'll be part of our life. So what we need to be able to do in the Tees Valley is make every business and every individual digitally enabled. And I've been working with Professor Jane Turner to create a concept called Digital Life. The other considerations that we need to look at is what we call the 3 C's, convenience, capitalism and consumerism. They're the 3 things that are kind of really impacting the current situation that we're in with COVID, disease, Amazon, that kind of thing, and the need for us to have lots of things. So when you look at high streets per se, the world's shifting massively. Consumer behaviour is shifting massively, but the infrastructure of town centres potentially are not moving as quickly. And some of that is a challenge because landlords own buildings and local authorities can't necessarily access those spaces. So it becomes quite a complex situation. So what we're trying to do at Stockton BID is really look beyond what we know and create completely new innovations. So one of them that we're currently looking at, and I hope Jason doesn't mind, is we're looking at sensory marketing as a concept for high streets. It's completely new. You probably won't have even heard of it, but I'm working with an amazing guy called Russell Jones. He's an author, and he predominantly works in the luxury goods market for Bentley, Aston Martin. And I reached out to him and said, look, we've got town centres, they're losing their sense of purpose, space. We've lost our sensory sense, I suppose, as humans. You know, town centres years ago would have the smells of, the fishmongers, the cafe bars, etc. So we're losing all of those kinds of things. So we're looking at how can we make high streets more sensory. So Jessie, you touched on the digital high street, but there's another aspect of that we're looking at is sonic streets as well. So sonic streets are how you can help all members of the community, those that might be also visually impaired, with sound and music, and bring in the sensory element along with the digital element. So it's really, really complex, Matt, and all the points that kind of Jess and Joe have made around kind of integrating sort of digital businesses. I personally and professionally feel that Stockton is probably one of our precious assets as a town centre, and I would like to see the local authority, do more and engage more collaboratively with Stockton BID and reach out to companies like Ook and people like Jessica and Joe, because we've all got this amazing sort of element of information and insight that we can bring, and it really is just about joining the dots. So there's not one fix. There's a number of things that we need to look at. If I had a magic wand, I would wave it, but I don't. But the reality is, for a creative company like Ook, we are having to look beyond anything that we know and create completely new concepts. So the things that we hopefully will be doing in Stockton will be brand new, and we're going to have to pilot completely new stuff that hasn't been done before, because we can't do what we've done in the past. And the reality of the situation is we could be in this setup for another year or so. So we've just got to look at what we do. And finally, hopefully you may have all seen the Humans of the High Street campaign that we launched on YouTube, where we filmed sort of 10 businesses as they went into lockdown. That's one way we can work creatively to show the stories of the businesses on the high street. So I can't give you any gold nuggets right now, but I think, yes, the first thing is everyone's got to be digitally enabled.
Absolutely. Well, Max, I think there's so much to take in there. I don't know about anyone else. I was certainly taking down notes, certainly Sonic High Street. Sonic Street sounded excellent. I thought it was going to be about a little blue hedgehog who ran around or something, but no, far more advanced than that. I think a lot of people agreeing with that. Ian saying, bang on, Max, a teenager doesn't get the fact you get in a car, go to a supermarket, look for stuff, pay for it, take it home, unpack it. The new norm, they just press a button and it comes, which I think, a lot of us have started leaning on that, haven't they?
Can I just quickly say that there was a comment about sort of the Amazon website. What Amazon have actually done, if you look at the research, currently what's going on, we've probably got a handful of big brands that are sort of single-handedly changing consumer behavior, and fundamentally at the core of that is our data and algorithms. And I don't want to get too scientific about it, but broadly speaking, what Amazon have done is they've basically made the ability of convenience and consumerism so easy that we've become quite lazy. So where the high street has to catch up is we have to create a new concept for a high street for the future generation. It's got to be digitally enabled, and it's got to be just not retail, because if you just want a pair of black trousers and a notebook, you can get that on Amazon. So we can't compete with that. We've got to create something that's completely complementary to that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that certainly makes sense. Jace, yeah?
Yeah, just to jump in again, and Max is absolutely spot on with all of those things. And the sensory stuff's actually quite exciting that we'll look at going forward. But it isn't, it's about experiences now, and they're the things that we have to play on. And it's really difficult for businesses now, because at one point they just had bricks and mortar retail, on the high street, and that was it. And now we're saying to them, you've got to be digitally aware as well. So now we're having to be digitally aware and have their boots on the street. It's and with less staff to do it. It's just becoming a nightmare for business. Why anyone would want to open a business now, God only knows. But let's hope that we keep giving them reasons to do that. And by getting onto the high streets and speaking to people and having that community, if we don't, we see real problems with people having a lack of social awareness and those types of things. But that comes from having not having that interaction, from pressing click on a button and it arrives, and not actually going face to face and meeting people and buying something and transacting with people. Kids of the next generation will never have that if everything is done like this via a screen. It just won't work. And I think that's another reason why those children that are 10, 11, 12, that we need to still, keep working on their social skills, because without that, we're going to be knackered. Excuse my language.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, no, I think you're right, Jason. I know, Joe, I know you've got to jump off. I know you have another meeting, Joe Davies. Thank you so much for joining us. I think it was a fascinating insight into the world of HR, and particularly at this current time, and wish you all the best with it. Hope you're not too busy. So thanks for joining us. I know Laura's just agreeing with a few of the points there, loving the Etsy idea. Shops there a lot, and she's purchasing something ethically and locally is so important to her and many others, which I think is so right, Laura. Absolutely. Okay, well, I know it's 5 o'clock, so I just passed. So apologies for keeping you all a little bit longer, but I do want to cross over to Joe Ager, who is the general manager at the Globe Theatre in Stockton. Now, this is something that Amazon can't recreate. Yes, they can get us trousers. Yes, they can do everything else. But what they can't provide is fantastic, entertaining evenings like we get at the Globe. Now, we have to sort of look beyond where we are now to the future for our growth and positive change. But when we're all, going to be able to socialise again at the Globe. I'm guessing you're going to be ready to join us, to bring us back in style and with a great lineup of artists. So, Joe, what can you tell us is happening next? What have you got in the pipelines, and how are you guys getting on? Are you okay?
Sorry. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so I'm the crazy one opening a business on the high street. It's really good to, I know I'll keep this short, but it's great to kind of get the comments around supporting what we're doing. And it is a really challenging time, but it's definitely the right time for the venue. Those of you that know it's been shut since 1993. So we're looking for the future. We're looking at creating that cultural hub, which I think will also help regenerate a lot of the things we've been talking about. It creates a very different feel to Stockton High Street. There's a purpose for people to visit within the region, but also externally. So there's a huge opportunity. I agree with talking about how we reposition the high street. Is something that I've seen in many places that I've lived and worked. It's a real challenge, but we have a whopping 3,000 capacity venue to welcome people to. So I'll just take you through a little bit of the exciting stuff. I don't know those that saw it. We went live with Paloma Faith, and she sold out. She was the fastest selling venue on the tour, 27 other venues, and we smashed it, which was fantastic. So that shows me, as much as people are nervous and it's a very challenging time, that there is an appetite, and her dates are in October next year. But so that was really encouraging, because we literally didn't know. You don't know, you test the markets and you think something will happen, but that went really well. We've just gone, we're going on sale with a diversity tour tomorrow, which again has got a lot of great positive PR, because it's they've been here before, they support Stockton. We're doing quite a lot of PR around that as well. And then we are doing a virtual showcase, because normally we would invite stakeholders, press and promoters to an event, give them a few glasses of fizz, and launch the venue. So what we've done is we've explored the digital channels, and it's something we've been doing all the way through, really. And we're using a mixture of virtual reality, YouTube channel we'll be launching it on. So that's something that is going live next week on Thursday to a close, and announcing 10 additional shows on Thursday next week, which is a whole variety of comedy, music, dance, family shows. So again, the promoters, which is quite a challenge when a national promoter doesn't know the area, it's a new venue, there's a big risk. They've actually been really receptive to the work we've done. They've seen a lot of the work around the town centre refurbishment regeneration project. Stockton is seen actually as a bit of a leader in that area. I came from Scarborough. I worked with a group of business directors, and they were all like, oh, Stockton have got it right, they're doing it right. There's so I know there's always more to do, but actually I think we've got a great reputation at doing things first and being, real sort of leaders in that sort of thinking process of how to change things. So that's great for me. That's great for me opening a business. I also have a big recruitment, aspect, big training aspect to do. So I'm going to be dropping notes for everyone going, right, how can you help? So it's really exciting. The feedback, the national trade, as we call it, so the big publications in the industry have really picked up on the story. Obviously, it's a feel-good story in a time where the industry is broken. It is broken, and it's quite a challenge to get the messaging right. But if we don't put something in the sand and say, look, we will be back and we will be doing this, then it would be a real challenge for that venue to get open. So we will be opening the doors. We're not looking at programming early next year because there is still that risk of social distancing. We will explore some opportunities around, or explore if we have to go into social distancing, but my business won't be opening any of our venues under social distancing terms. It's just not practical to deliver the product, the experience, and the promoters, they can't manage that kind of loss of income. So that's the challenge. But it's very exciting. Sorry, really quick, spoke too fast. There you go.
Not at all, Jo. I think a lot of us are very excited, and as you say, it is a real sort of shining light of hope and everything else in a time which is hard for everyone, and particularly the entertainment industry. I think a lot of people cannot wait for it to open up. I know everyone in the comments is saying yay to the Globe, can't wait to support it, whatever it is, count us in. So brilliant. And I know Jason had his hand up, he's waving away. I'm sure he's going to offer you exactly the same support.
Absolutely, and it actually yes to Jo and the work that she's doing with the Globe, but also a big well done to Stockton Borough Council as well. I can see Claire Frawley sat there quite quietly and listening in, but Claire's been absolutely massively instrumental in lots of the hard work behind everything that goes on at the Globe, as well as the stuff Jo's done. So I think Claire and the rest of the team at Stockton Borough Council, I know it's been a long time coming, I know it's been over budget and all of those type of things, but when you look at things like the Globe, the Hilton, we've got Lorna there as well from the Hilton, and the things that are happening with the Castlegate. I think there's, there is doom and gloom around at the moment, but I think there's also lots and lots of things to be massively confident and positive about, and I think that's a really positive note to sort of come to an end on, really, that there are positive things happening, and I think, keep going, Stockton is the way forward.
Absolutely. Keep going, Stockton. Well done for dropping that in, Jason, as well. That's the message. Keep going, Stockton. I think that is a lovely place to sort of leave it this evening. I mean, Jessie Jo Jacobs, is she still here? Is she just? Oh, she's still here. Yeah, you just changed positions on my screen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd like to have a final say.
Yeah, just to say, really, it is exactly this heart and spirit and coming together and believing in our future that we are going to get through the crisis and see the Tees Valley be everything that it should be. And I think that's one of the things that unites us, isn't it? That we're deeply passionate about the place that we're from. I obviously came here as a panelist, but I'm kind of now looking at everything. I come once a month just to get a little bit of some encouragement from you. But if there's anything you my Twitter is a good place to get me on LinkedIn. I'm getting sorted on there. do search for me, drop me a line, policies, any ideas, any rants, whatever it is. I am there to listen to you and champion your voices. So thanks for inviting me along today.
Amazing. Well, Jessie, it's been a pleasure to have you along. And yeah, well, there's always a place for you here at the Met. On that note, I should say, we will be back in November. If you liked this event, obviously, please share your feedback now on LinkedIn and everything else, because we want to grow this as much as possible. We want to grow the awareness across Stockton and, you know, all about Stockton BID. And not just across Stockton, I guess across the UK, across the world. Zoom we're unlimited now with where we can go. If you want to book for next month, obviously bookings can be found in the usual place. Get them on Eventbrite. A big thanks to Sam at One of a Kind, who sits there very quietly in the background, and we all know that she's there pedaling furiously, looking like a swan on the surface, but putting all the work in behind the scenes. So thank you very much, Sam. Lovely to see you as always, and you know, making sure all the bookings have been coordinated with Eventbrite and Zoom and everything else. A big thank you to Jason. As always, Jason, a key part of this, and it's always great to have him down from Stockton BID, always with some fantastic news about the region and some great points as well. Ook, aka One of a Kind, great to see Max as well. And of course, all our fantastic panelists this evening, those who are left. I know some have had to shoot off. We really appreciate you coming in and sharing your thoughts on going forward. And last but not least, everyone else who's been here just to take part, and I hope you found it worthwhile and hope you've enjoyed the conversation once more, and we shall see you in November. In the meantime, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you then. Bye.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone, take care.
Thank you, bye.